I always believed love would conquer everything. A year ago, I stood in front of a man I thought I knew, wearing my wedding dress, heart full of hope. We pledged our lives to one another, and I was convinced that David was my future. The man who had swept me off my feet, with his kind words and gentle gestures, would always be there, by my side. But I was wrong. It's been a year since that day, and I can barely recognize the man I married. He's a stranger now, someone who treats me like a servant more than a wife. He used to look at me with warmth, but now his eyes are cold, and his words sharp. I wonder sometimes if it's my fault. Did I change? Did I do something to make him resent me? Number, I know better. It's not me. It's him. My name is Sarah Collins. I'm 29 years old. I work as a project manager at a small tech firm in the city. On the outside, I look like any other working woman. I wear nice clothes, smile at meetings, and handle my tasks efficiently. But no one at work knows the truth. They don't see the bruises hidden beneath my long sleeves, or the fear that gnaws at me every time the clock ticks toward the end of the workday. David used to be different. He used to tell me how much he loved me, how lucky he felt to have me in his life. He was charming and attentive, always making me feel like I was the most important person in the world. My friends adored him, and my parents, well, they thought I had finally found the man who would take care of me. But something changed the night we got married. I noticed it first on our honeymoon. Small things at first. He would get irritated if I didn't order the right wine or if I took too long to get ready. "We're on vacation, Sarah. Can't you just try to be a little faster?" His words stung, but I brushed them off. I didn't want to ruin the trip. It wasn't until we got back that the real David started to show. The first time he raised his voice at me, I froze. We were arguing about something trivial, whether we should repaint the living room. I suggested a soft blue, and he snapped, "Why do you always have to disagree with me? It's like you enjoy making my life harder." His anger came out of nowhere, but I didn't respond. I thought maybe he was just stressed from work, but the yelling didn't stop there. It got worse. Over time, his temper became a regular occurrence. He'd shout at me for the way I folded his clothes, for making dinner too late, for not answering his texts quickly enough. Nothing I did seemed to please him anymore. I started walking on eggshells, constantly trying to anticipate what would set him off next. Then the insults came. He'd call me names, belittle me in ways I never thought possible. "You're useless. Can't even cook a decent meal," he'd mutter after throwing the food I made into the trash. His words were like knives, cutting deeper each time. I stopped telling anyone about our problems. My friends and family would only worry, and I didn't want them to think I had failed at marriage so soon. I kept telling myself things would get better. Maybe he was just going through something. Maybe if I tried harder, he would go back to being the David I fell in love with. But deep down, I knew that man was gone, replaced by someone cruel, someone who saw me as less than human. The worst part? I didn't have the courage to leave. I know what people would say. "Why don't you just walk away? Why don't you stand up for yourself?" But it's not that easy. It never is. David has a way of making me feel like I deserve this treatment, like I'm the one who's flawed. Every time I think about leaving, I hear his voice in my head, telling me I'm worthless, that no one else would want me. So I stay. The only place I feel safe is at work. My office is my escape. It's the one place where I don't have to worry about saying the wrong thing or making a mistake. There, I'm respected. My colleagues look up to me, and my boss trusts me with important projects. But even there, the weight of my marriage presses on me. I find myself distracted, unable to focus like I used to. It's getting harder to keep up the act. One day, after a particularly long meeting, I returned to my desk to find a text from David. Where are you? You should have been home an hour ago. My stomach tightened. I checked the time. He was right. I was late. The traffic was going to make it worse. Quickly, I grabbed my things and headed out, my mind racing. What excuse could I use this time? Would he be angry? Of course he would. By the time I got home, it was dark. I braced myself as I unlocked the door, hoping he had fallen asleep. But as soon as I stepped inside, I saw him standing in the hallway, arms crossed, glaring at me. "You're late," he said coldly. "I told you to be home by 6. "I'm sorry," I stammered. "There was traffic." "Always excuses," he snapped. "You think I don't know when you're lying?" "I'm not lying, David," I said, my voice trembling. "Please, I'm just tired. Can we talk about this tomorrow?" He stepped closer, his face inches from mine. "No, we'll talk about this now," he growled. His hand reached out, gripping my wrist tightly. The pain shot through my arm, but I didn't pull away. I couldn't. Suddenly, I felt the cold metal of his wedding ring pressing into my skin, and it all became too much. The fear, the pain, the exhaustion, it all came crashing down on me at once. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. Instead, I looked him in the eye and whispered, "I can't do this anymore." For a moment, David seemed taken aback. His grip loosened slightly, and his expression softened, but only for a second. Then his face twisted into a sneer. "You think you have a choice?" he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "You're nothing without me, Sarah. Remember that." He let go of my wrist and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. I stood there in the hallway, my whole body shaking. I had finally said it, those words that had been trapped inside me for so long. But instead of feeling relieved, I felt more trapped than ever. The days that followed were a blur. David's mood swung wildly from one extreme to the other. Some days, he was eerily calm, pretending like nothing had happened. Other days, he was worse than ever, lashing out at me for the smallest things. I started to dread coming home, to dread seeing his face. Then, something happened that changed everything. One afternoon, while I was at work, I received a call from my father. "Sarah, are you okay?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. "I'm fine," I replied, confused. "Why?" I had a strange feeling," he said. "Is everything all right with you and David?" My heart skipped a beat. My father didn't know about the problems in my marriage. I had kept everything hidden from him, not wanting to worry him. But now, hearing his voice, I felt an overwhelming urge to tell him everything. "Dad, My voice cracked. "Things aren't good. David, he's not who you think he is." There was silence on the other end of the line, and then my father spoke, his tone firm. "Sarah, listen to me. You don't have to stay in that situation. You don't have to keep living like this." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that I could just walk away, but the fear held me back. "It's not that simple," I whispered. "It is," my father said. "Come home. We'll figure it out together." Tears streamed down my face as I listened to him. For the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe I didn't have to live like this. Maybe there was a way out. That night, when David came home, I was ready. I had packed a small bag and left it by the door. I knew I couldn't tell him I was leaving. Not yet. I just needed to get out of the house. "I'm going to visit my parents for the weekend," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. David glanced at me, suspicion flickering in his eyes. "Why?" I need a break," I replied, my heart pounding. "It's been a long week." For a moment, I thought he would argue, but to my surprise, he simply shrugged. "Fine, do whatever you want." I could hardly believe it. He didn't try to stop me. He didn't even seem to care. Without wasting another second, I grabbed my bag and walked out the door. As I drove to my parents' house, I felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, fear, and something else I couldn't quite put into words. I didn't know what would happen next, but for the first time in a year, I felt like I had a chance to take control of my life again. When I arrived at my parents' house, my father was waiting for me on the porch. He didn't say anything. He just opened his arms, and I collapsed into them, sobbing.